Hey everybody, Larry Powell here, your host for Studio HFL, where you truly do hear from legends. And of course, we've got a real legend in the trumpet industry, the brass industry. Yeah, he's going to disagree with that already. Of course, this week, this is kind of the time where we would normally be going to music ed conferences and being able to see these exhibitors and hobnob with all our colleagues and friends. But what I decided was this, we don't have to miss that opportunity. So I'm calling this the Industry Pro Showcase, where each night I've had different people on and you can check in and ask questions. Of course, the first night we kicked it off with Trent Austin. That was a blast. You can't go wrong with somebody as talented and funny as Trent. Ricky Riccardi, the Louis Armstrong author, was Tuesday night with a special surprise guest, Doc Severinsen. Let's see, Peter Pickett and Eric Murine from, oh wait, that's competition, Carl. Maybe I shouldn't mention them. Peter Pickett, Eric Murine from Pickett Blackburn. Yeah, I know. Were the next night. And then last night, oh man, what another treat, with Rudd. And we talked about his new book. Tonight, of course, the Karl Hammond. And we're going to finish things up tomorrow night with David Messina and Erica Howard of Messina Covers. And I'm looking forward to that one too, because like I've said every night, we know about mouthpieces and trumpets and mutes, but we don't get a lot of insight into cases, custom stuff like that. So I think that's going to be really great cases. Yeah. So thank you everybody for being here. Let's see, social media. Oh yeah, I want to let you know that all of this stuff is posted the following day on YouTube. This video is going to go right up on YouTube tomorrow, and then the audio is going to go on to the podcast platform. You'll have access to both. The YouTube channel, the Studio HFL YouTube channel, if we can get to 100 subscribers, I'm going to be able to get a custom URL. So you know, if you make your way to YouTube, go ahead and subscribe while you're there. Of course, I would love it if you would visit studiohfl.com, a website where you can sign up for the newsletter. You can read the blog, and in the blog are show notes for all of the podcast interviews. And of course, there's merchandise, Studio HFL merchandise, right? We've got polos and t-shirts. And anyways, check that out, studiohfl.com. You'll also be able to check out not just next week's interview, who's coming up, but you'll be able to see who I've interviewed. Number 87, Terry Warburton, came out this week. There are a total of 143 done. I still have to edit the rest of those, but there's so many great interviews coming up. Okay, so tonight's guest, Karl Hammond, and here's how I first heard about Karl. I was sitting in a rehearsal with the Indianapolis Symphony. I was subbing in, and I was sitting next to Bob Wood. And at intermission, at break in the rehearsal, Bob leans over and goes, "Man, you got to try this mouthpiece." It was a 2 ml Hammond design. Never heard of it. Looked like a mouthpiece, you know. So over the 20-minute break, I'm playing this mouthpiece, and I'm like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever played," right? You know, I had an instant double C. All of a sudden I could play Mahler 5 perfectly. And no, but I tell you what, the thing I do remember, of course, was it was the most comfortable mouthpiece I had ever put up to my chops. It was terrific. And so I said, "Bob, have you got Karl's number?" So he gave me your number. I think I called you. Maybe I texted or called, but you overnighted me one. Right, so I had maybe the next day or so, I had my own 2 ml, and it's gone downhill since then. I don't know. I've probably got 30 or so pieces.
Just like Bob.
Yeah, just like Bob, right? And they're all great. They're all great. So that was my introduction to you, and then we eventually met. I came up to the shop, the first shop. Where was the first shop?
Oh, there was one up there by O'Hare Airport. There was one out in Downers Grove, and then
that's the one I came to.
In Downers Grove, yeah. That was a nice place. Then we moved to Western Springs. Been here in Western Springs for 10 or 11 years now.
And I've been to that shop, but a lot of changes in that shop recently.
Yeah, we've taken the quiet time to our advantage and done a lot of work around here.
Yeah, a lot of great work, a lot of great pictures, you know, and you check this stuff out on social media. And, okay, so this is what we're going to do next. All right, I'm gonna hide here for a second. All right, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you know what? That's the first time I've taken myself off screen. I thought my audio would still work. So, yeah, so here we are. Some great social media stuff, right? Got the lathe in the background or whatever that is, coffee maker. I don't know what it does. So then we get stuff like this. This is what we have permission to discuss, which I think it looks like bowling for mouthpieces, right? Set them up, knock it down. That's a very cool picture. But why are we not to speak of this vignette? Here, that's my question. And of course, it's too late. I've mentioned it. What's going on here?
Quite honestly, I'm not sure either, but it's the stuff that I threw in the recycle bin the day before.
Yeah, I put on Facebook, if you can guess the number of mouthpieces in each jar, you're going to get, you'll become a member of the Mouthpiece of the Month Club.
Well, then you just answered the question.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I don't know how many. But a couple people did comment on that post, you know, with their guesses. They'll be disappointed to find out there's no Mouthpiece of the Month. We're also not supposed to talk about the decor or that those horns should be on hooks, not shelves. Yeah, so which is why I'm bringing that up, right? See, to me, this was, you can't tell me not to talk about something because I'm going to bring it up.
You know what? Through my whole career, working at Schilke and anywhere I've been, we always hang trumpets from the hooks on the wall, the dowel rods and stuff. So that's what I set up over here to hang all my instruments. Yeah, that wasn't liked much, so we did it different.
Well, I like the setup behind you. I mean, it's very tidy. It looks good.
Yeah, everything. Trying to make it more visually pleasing for people coming in. For the longest time, I kind of went with the homeless look. The outside looked like it was abandoned, and we just kind of decided to, hey, we have a store. Come on in.
Have you seen? This was on Facebook recently. Somebody posted. It was like the store from like the early 1910s, 1920s. It was a music store, and none of the trumpets had cases. They were all like in a little cubby, and had the price tag hanging off of them, or they were hanging on not even a hook with a thing on the end. It was just like a straight peg, and they hung the horn up there. I'm like, it was a very different time.
Yes.
And maybe the horns weren't valued quite as much as we value them today. But all right, let's see what else we got here real quick. Huge no-no.
Big pile of forming tools.
What the heck? It almost looks like something from Breaking Bad. I mean,
it could be.
It could be.
So that you could set that up on the lathe and form brass.
Oh. Wow, I tell you what, though, that's I don't think I would ever come up with.
You want old school? That's old school.
That's old school. So what kind of forming? When you say forming brass, what are we talking about? Like crooks?
Well, creating the cup and rim. I mean, those are rim and cup profiles.
Gotcha. Do you still use those, or are those discarded?
Every now and then, but more than that, I do. I have other ways of doing it now. So
okay, so it's just decoration.
Those are just kind of laying in a basket, apparently on display.
Got it. Okay, so then we have this is 1,000% okay to chat about tonight. So tell us who this is.
That's my boy Norman. He's here. He'll probably be in the picture every now and then.
And he's in the shop with you, right?
Yes.
Does he just what happens when people come in to try mouthpieces? Does he take
He
off?
scares the crap out of them first, and then we pull them backwards, and then when they come in, he licks them to death.
I haven't experienced that one yet. And
No.
you know what? Wouldn't that be a great marketing thing for any business? Come in and get licked.
Yeah, the mailman doesn't like us much.
All right, so yeah, we're back. There we go. That's
There's
all
Norman
I had.
in the picture right there.
Wait, and oh, yep, I see him down in the background. It's like, where's Waldo, right?
Yep.
So
yep.
Yeah, yep.
So that picture is also on the outside of the windows on the outside.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I was hoping to have a little fun with that, and that was a little fun with that. So, okay.
Just Karl, so everybody understands, I don't go on social media that much. I just don't have time. So I have no idea what's put out there. But she has a lot of fun with it, and it sounds like most everybody else does too. So
yeah, it's good. It's good stuff, you know, and the stuff with a great sense of humor, I think that's where it has to be. You know, we know you're good at what you do. So let's have some fun along the way. All right, Karl, give us some background for yourself.
This is my 30th year in the industry, starting now. Back in '91, I graduated from Western Illinois University, and with a music business degree. So music merchandising, marketing, all that stuff. Soon as I graduated, I went down and I had always been keeping in touch with Terry Warburton. I was kind of his frequent flyer phone call. And so one of these phone calls, he just said, "So what are you planning on doing after graduation?" I said, "Well, I got to do an internship. Not quite sure where, but why not come down here?" Okay. So I came down to Orlando, did my internship with Terry, and then worked with them for another couple of years after that. Then when Anissa at the time was a flight attendant with Delta Airlines, so she ended up getting transferred up to Chicago. So we came back here, and I got my job at Schilke. Started at Schilke in '93, and initially was fitting valves, slides, buffing, a lot of different things. Soon after that, Scott Lasky left the company and started his own. So I kind of stepped in and took over the mouthpiece department, custom mouthpieces and all that stuff, customer service. And I did that for a good amount of time. 2005, I left Schilke and started here. So I'm into my 15th year with Hammond Design and 30th in the industry.
Okay, so I've learned over the years that it's one thing to start your own business, but when you're in a business like this and you want to start, the tooling ain't cheap.
No.
Right? I mean, and of course you don't have bell mandrels, but you still have an awful lot of things that you need. So were these things that were parting gifts from Schilke or Terry?
No.
Or you had to purchase?
I had to come up with a way of doing things. Yeah, I mean, you've been in here and seen me make stuff. So, you come up with a routine, you do it the same way for so long. You have templates and gauges and all that stuff just to make sure that everything's the way it should be. Yes, there are forming tools also, and backbore reamers, and I've developed a process over the years that's become, second nature anymore. Mm-hmm. No, that's the interesting part of the industry is there's so much creativity out there. Everybody kind of does things a little bit differently, and you got a lot of choices, and it's all good stuff.
It is all good stuff. And I want to go back, of course, you're talking about Schilke and Terry Warburton and Scott Lasky. And of course, I mean, how many of these? It's kind of like everybody came from the same tree, right? Everybody just starts to branch out because you've got Canstel and Giardinelli, and I mean, we're talking about trumpets too. But it's like you guys eventually go off on your own, but there is a real terrific camaraderie within this industry. You know, you each have your own business, but it's really very congenial. And if people go to a conference, they see that.
I know that I can call up Terry Warburton with a favor, and it'd be like that. And I do the same thing for him, of course, and many of the other guys in the industry. It's a small industry. We can't. I think we have to work together to make this industry thrive.
You know, and I think one of the benefits of a smaller operation like yours, and I know yours is a big operation, but I'm thinking, you know, in terms of comparing to Conselm or Yamaha, who've got, you know, ka-chunk, 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 you know, things are coming out. And it's not a criticism, it's just a comparison. But one of the benefits that I see with the smaller business is you're not just making this stuff. You're actually talking to the customer and listening and developing. You've got stock materials or stock pieces, right? But if I want something, and I've done this, I've called you and said, Karl, I need, and you said, okay, I'll make that, or I've already got that in stock, you know, and you can't get that with other places. And I think that's where Pickett, you know, Peter's certainly making use of that personal interaction with people. You're doing that. And do you see the value in that?
Oh yeah. You know, you were saying, I heard on a couple of them where you just kind of said, we're going to find out if it really does sound better in HD. Well, that's my ultimate goal, you know, because everybody's important to us. You know, we're a small company, so it doesn't take as much for us to maintain levels, you know, of business like some of these larger companies are struggling right now. But each person that comes into this shop, we want to focus on and make sure that they're leaving happy. We'll do whatever we need to. You know, starting at the very beginning, going back to Terry and going back to my work at Schulke. If you're going to talk and not listen, you're not going to do things correctly. So, you know, there's got to be a give and take back and forth. You have to understand what that player wants. You're not going to just simply say, I kind of know what you want. No, that's where you're going to get yourself into trouble. You got to take that little bit of extra time. And honestly, that's the part that I like the most about this business is the working one-on-one, and in all hope of people walking out the door happy. Kind of makes the day worth it.
I don't know why this popped into my head, but you know, I flash back to the days when you'd go down to the local butcher and he'd make the, you know, okay, I need a cut of this and I want, you know, look like this. And it was that kind of customer service, right? Mm-hmm. You deliver exactly what the customer wants. You know, not a fair comparison, right, between those two things, but that's what it is. It's really great attention to the customer and delivering what they want. And if it's not right, you fix it.
That's right.
So one of the cool things about visiting your shop, and it just blew me away, is that you are still so literally hands-on with every mouthpiece. This is not a CNC process, right?
Right.
But the consistency, we talked about this before, the consistency is unbelievable. You know, and well, yeah. So, I mean, that speaks to your talent and your skill, right? The craft that you've developed over the years. But I think that's another thing that makes your mouthpieces so special. This sounds like a commercial for a Hammond design. And it is, right? That's why you're here.
Thank you. You just get to the point. Like I said, doing it the same way every time, you kind of know with my eyes closed which cup I'm working on and, you know, how it's supposed to feel. And, you know, I develop a routine for sure. It's the same damn routine all the time, but it's got to be done right every time too.
What's a typical day look like for you?
Usually it's coming in, looking at the orders that I have laying on my table, making sure that I get through those. We might have a customer coming in, not so many lately. Then I'll get ready to work with them. I mean, it's not the same every day. I'll get into a routine of finishing a batch of stuff to send to the platers downtown. So there's a routine there. Make the stuff, sand it all, buff it up, degrease it, get in the car, head downtown, drop it off, come back, start again.
Well, and things have improved as far as the plating goes over the years. I remember there was a point where you were having to wait sometimes, 2 weeks or so to get a turnaround on stuff?
Yeah, so early on, I was utilizing the plater that pretty much everybody utilizes, and it was difficult just to get stuff over there, and then the wait time and all that stuff. So Scott Lasky actually got me into a plater in downtown Chicago. That he and I were the only two companies that they were setting up bright silver and bright gold for. And this is a big, huge industrial company, and we had our own little tanks over here. Now, I think Peter's used them a little bit from, every now and then. With Scott gone, it's pretty much just me, but they know me by name, and we're good friends, and they treat me well, because I'll go down there, and usually it's 5 business days to 7 business days, and I'll have the stuff back.
Mm-hmm.
Their gold is phenomenal.
Okay, so what's the difference between the previous plater and the current as far as the gold?
To me, it seems like a darker quality, and not sound wise, but look. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's a little bit darker and thicker in quality to me. All the people out there who have gold mouthpieces, you can be the judges yourself. But when I first got a gold plated piece from Reliable, it was stunning, and I just knew we had made the right choice.
Let's see. I'm trying to get. This is one of your flugel pieces you made for me.
How long ago was that?
Well, that's what I'm. How long you been with this plater?
Quite a long time. I'm not sure. That one could be.
I mean, it's beautiful, and it hasn't worn at all. But this one you stamped on the rim for me, RFL. I don't know if you remember this one. This was I think it was a number 12 throat you put on this, right? A number 12. Nobody can see that, but that's huge.
You can drive a car through it.
Yeah. So, I will say the gold plate, personally, the one reason I like it is it warms instantly. There's not a cold mouthpiece feel going up to your chop. So, but of course, visually, it's also, it's a great thing to look at, right?
I like the feel of gold on like B flat and C. Piccolo trumpet, I can't play gold to save myself. Just moves around too much. Piccolo's too hard for me anyway. It's got to stick.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so pandemic is affected everybody. That's the understatement of the year.
Yes.
It's devastated a lot of people who just kind of were standing there, but you've pivoted. You've and I know that's kind of the word of the day, right? Pivot. What does that pivot look like for you in orders and deliveries and manufacture?
Well, I mean, the pandemic's been hard on us too, for sure. Again, going back to the size of the company, I mean, we're not big, so it doesn't take nearly as much to keep it rolling. So that's been a little bit of an advantage. Hammond Design isn't going anywhere. Having said that, orders have been down a lot. So we did take it up. We did take the time to, I've been designing some new stuff trying to fill some gaps in the trombone line, and taking the time to stock up so that when everything opens up, we'll have piles of mouthpieces here waiting for everybody. And two, just doing a lot of work around here, making it a lot more pleasing. And we have had people in here, not a lot, but the thing about that is, you know, it's a big enough place where we can spread out. Most people know I'm also a firefighter EMT, so you know, I've been seeing this from both sides, and I know what it takes to be careful. We've had one or two people in here over the past couple months, maybe, but we just kind of set it up where we got a table in the middle of the room. You know, I'll take things, clean it up in a towel, set it on the table, back up, they grab it, they play. It's been fine. We do our due diligence for sure, and we're extremely careful. Having said that, compared to normal business, not a lot's going on. Yeah. But we've taken this time to do as much as we can to help further the business for when we all come out of this, we'll be ready to fly.
One of the cool things I remember you doing and are still doing is, because you had made so many mouthpieces for drum corps, right? You started offering mouthpieces with, and I don't know how many different corps people could order their own, like Blue Coats or.
Yeah, I mean, we usually have quite a few of them. We usually sell to at least 12 or 15 of them a year. This last year, obviously, all of Drum Corps was canceled, so that was kind of a hit on us. You know, we did try to help the corps out a little bit and along the way, and we were selling mouthpieces with their stamps on them, and then we were giving a portion of the sales to the drum corps, and doing all we can to try and help out a little bit, because that's a lot of people not able to play. I mean, the music industry's been pretty much devastated by this, correct?
Absolutely. I hope we never see this sort of thing again, ever.
It's hard because I think there are some negative aspects to come out of this. I mean, there's going to be a lot of kids who are quitting band. You know, it's just too much of a hassle to have online lessons or maintain it when there's nothing to work for, and it's like, you know, no concerts, no contests, and anything. And I think that's going to be the unfortunate side of this, is we're going to lose some potentially good players down the way, you know, and a lot of young players that are going to build up.
I've got a few friends over in England, and have talked to them recently. And of course, the UK has declared the arts an inviable or unviable profession. Not just non-essential, right? But unviable. And they are encouraging them to go retrain, get something else to do. And boy, you know, I mean, and I know some people are doing that on their own here. They're trying to go, and maybe I'll never get another gig again. Or
doing what they need to do to survive, right?
You do what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. The music industry is the forgotten industry, I think, in all of this, because you know, everybody wants to get out and do things, but you know, we can't get together, and so a lot of these musicians have to sit and wait. Yeah, I mean, it's devastating.
Yeah. So you mentioned firefighter a few minutes ago. Tell us a little bit about this side hustle that you've got going on.
Side hustle. I work in the fire department here in town. I'm a lieutenant EMT, and also the training officer with the department. So I've got a lot of demands there too. This is always going to be my baby, Hammond Design. So, but it's been if there's a good part of this last year, I will say it's seeing it from the fire department side. Because you learn a lot of compassion, you learn a lot of respect, and you see how hard it is on people. I mean, yeah, we see it's hard here too, but riding in an ambulance with somebody who's really struggling, that can be difficult at times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually Anissa got me convinced me to get into it, because I'm working here by myself all the time. I go there and I'm working with a bunch of guys, and mm-hmm. it's my little escape, I guess you can say.
That seems so odd to think that, being an EMT is an escape. It's less pressure than what you're doing. So
it's definitely not less pressure, but
how and when did you get involved or interested in that?
About 10 years ago.
Was it? I mean, Baywatch was off the air by then, so I mean, you weren't being influenced by David Hasselhoff and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
So I got a letter in the mail in the village. The department that's here is it's what's called paid on call. So they look for people within the village to assist at the department. I've kind of built myself up a little higher, and I'm considered more closer to full time than the POC side of it. But I got started that way. So I carried a pager, and a call would come in, and gotta go, let's go. And I'd hop on a rig and go on a call, and then come back to the shop and make a mouthpiece.
Wow.
I'm still doing it. So
wow. Well, thanks for doing that. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, it's like the first responders who out there. I mean, you guys, oh my gosh, you're encountering so much more, obviously, than you would normally. Like you mentioned, COVID patients, or I mean, even not COVID. Just I couldn't do that. That's not me. So thank goodness there are people like you who do step up and do that.
Well, and it shows you how hard this has been, because any other time we go up to a house, the fire to get off an ambulance or get off the engine or whatever, and people just flock, and they love the firefighters. This last year, they've avoided us like the plague. So no, we're good. Stay back there. So
right.
It's been hard everywhere.
Yeah. So a couple of people just commenting. So Anthony Triplett early on, we're talking about social media stuff. He says, I often add fuel to the social media. Yeah. Don't you? Is he saying he's a troll? Or
no, he's not a troll.
Okay.
We're keeping him busy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been doing some videos for us. I mentioned that I've been trying to design some new trombone stuff. So we've been throwing things at him and hoping something sticks, So he's been making videos showing the progress.
So you mentioned trombone mouthpieces. Do you have a way in designing a trombone mouthpiece to compensate for the lack of a trombone player finding fifth position?
I'll leave that one for Anthony.
Okay, so Brian Hoover. By the way, Brian is a local trumpet player here in Indy.
I know Brian well.
Oh, terrific! Yeah, right. He plays some of your stuff. He's asking how your fingers are, and I think that was following a conversation about you and the lathe.
Sanding of the mouthpieces. So right. Whenever I make tubas, forgive me, tuba players, but making tuba mouthpieces are the death of me. Sanding mouthpieces doesn't take more than 5 of them before my fingertips are bleeding. So that might be what he's talking about.
Got it. Well, and I noticed on Facebook earlier, Dan Delando, another local pro here in Indy and a good friend, was asking about a 3M LX. I mean, and I tell you, Dan, he's on board with Hammond too. I mean, so that brings up this.
I haven't seen Dan in a while.
He's doing great. I mean, and of course, he's working with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. Well, I say he's doing great. I'm hoping he's doing great. we don't see each other like we would normally, but he's working with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra and trying to get those musicians, being part of helping get those musicians back to work safely. So this reminds me about the whole regional thing. I think when I first heard about you and Hammond Design, it was like Indiana, Chicago, but you're a little more than just regional now. I mean, you're international at this point.
Yeah. There for the longest time, there was a path being worn from Indianapolis or Bloomington, for that matter, up to Chicago. Joey got a lot of his students.
Yeah,
Joey Tartell got a lot of his students coming up, and then we got to know Bob Wood, and it kind of branched off from him with the symphony. Indiana's been very good to us. Mm-hmm. We have one of our largest dealers is in Tokyo, Japan. We've got, but we ship all over the world now. I know that's the part that still gets me when we send a mouthpiece to Seoul, Korea, and I'm thinking, who the heck knows me there? I mean, great. I'm thrilled to death. It's humbling beyond belief. When I see Tasmania or something like that, are you kidding me?
It's funny you mentioned that, because just recently I set all my podcast up on SoundCloud, and they provide analytics on things. And so I had gone and looked. It's kind of cool to see that I'm in every state, mm-hmm. and I don't have any listeners in the Arctic or Antarctic yet. So I'm on 5 of the 7 continents, right? And but to see New Zealand or Taiwan, of course, nobody in China, right? I mean, it's a big blank, but it's kind of cool to know that you've got global reach on something. It's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
And then Texas is its own world. We send a lot of stuff to Texas.
Well, they're kind of known for their band programs down there, right?
Yes, very much so.
So again, this would be the maybe. Well, I know it's not the only time there's a show, but of course, Indiana Music Educators Conference would be happening this weekend. Ohio would be in a week or two. Illinois, Michigan, all this stuff would be happening. You miss going to those shows, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's kind of all pretty ironic. Because there for a while, I wasn't able to get to any shows because I was always just so busy here. And then finally we made the statement that we were going to just start going to shows again, and then we got shut down. So yes, I enjoy going to the shows. I like seeing everybody there. Got to get your FaceTime in. I like talking with people. It's also nice to find out, honestly, how many people don't know you yet, haven't heard of you, and you can kind of fill them in. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of aspects to a show that I find pleasing, because not to mention that I get to see all my colleagues within the industry too. So.
Well, I love shows too, because you could send probably Anthony. By the way, he says his 5th position works great on his 21
BLL.
You could send like Chuck Parrish, right? Another great spokesperson for Hammond Design. Mm-hmm. You could send him, but I think again that's where it's so cool to meet the person standing at the lathe, or standing at the mandrel, banging the daylights out of a bell. You get to talk to that person. It's well. And speaking of Chuck Parrish, he's an artist for you. He plays your equipment, and he's got his own signature mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. Give me some idea of some other big name, other than me, a big name people who play.
Okay, yeah, you were on the top of the list, so.
Oh, thank you very much.
So we've got we feel all the people playing Hammond Design are extremely important, but some of the most well-known supporters. So we got Michael Mulcahy in the from Northwestern, and obviously the CSO, as well as Jay Friedman. Larry Zalkin, trombone instructor and former symphony player, and he's at Eastman. Ava Ordman up in Michigan State. How you doing, Ava? I don't know if she's on or not. But, Randy Hawes with Detroit Symphony. I think he just retired. Congratulations, Randy. Yeah, the next one there is Anthony Triplett. But I have a bunch of educators too. And actually John Hagstrom is in there too. Everybody knows
Who?
John.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, who? Yeah.
Kind of a hack, right?
I've got a bunch of educators too. And I be honest, that's where I geared it initially, was to get in with the professors. Because a lot of those professors are also guys who go off and tour, like Joey Tartell at Indiana, Steve Leisering in Kansas, Carl Sievers in Oklahoma, Jim Dooley out in California, Chip Krotz at Georgia Tech, Randy Grabowski, Northern Iowa, Chris Carrillo at James Madison. Who are you saying? Oh, yes. And we just, Jose Leonardo Leon from down in Miami. He's a bass trombone player. We've known him for a long time, but he will be on our website here shortly. So there's a lot of names there. Like I said, I think we're all kind of in this together. So we appreciate everybody for sure.
Well, and I can see the importance, of course, of getting in to the younger players, getting them experienced with the brand. Well, and not just with the brand, but the quality and the options that you provide early. So now I'm thinking, when you mention Mick or Jay Friedman, I'm thinking, okay, so you've got these guys who've been playing for 1,000 years. You think they're going to be pretty happy with their equipment. Why on earth would you change this late in your career? And I'm not saying they're done. I think it's remarkable that they're still as strong players as they are. But I mean, you've talked to them. What is it that they find with the Hammond mouthpiece that they haven't found elsewhere?
So back when I was with Schilke, both of those guys I had done customs for. You kind of get to know what they like, and you know the direction that they lean as far as the way they play, how they want to sound and such. With Jay, the mouthpiece that everybody knows as the Jay Friedman model was a piece that I made originally at Schilke as a custom, and we've done some tweaks to it and such, but. You mentioned, I think you mentioned playing different things, but Jay's played the same thing for a long time. Mick, as soon as I started the business, he was one of the first guys to come out and played a bunch of stuff. Him and Jim Gilbertson. Jim was important because as I was making new stuff, he was standing across the room and playing it, and it just knocking me over. Mick, same thing. But even he gravitated. He moved around within a line. He started out with the L cups, and now he's on the MLs, and then he switched diameters and stuff. He's probably got one of everything, but he consistently plays that 11 ML all the time. Larry's the same way. Larry Zalkin plays an 11 ML. A lot of these, there's trends.
Okay, so back to Hagstrom. Hagstrom is to you probably what Vince DiMartino is to Peter Pickett and Eric, right? I mean, he's like trying to get to the shop every day and making a modification, right?
Yeah, he might be itching right now because we were supposed to get together a long time ago, and then it just hasn't happened. So he doesn't necessarily play anything stock of mine. He certainly has some. But we've done so much work over the years. He's a guy I owe a great deal to, for one, but he'll come out on get it. He'll be waiting for me at the door, and he'll stick around for 7-8 hours, and we'll just mess around. I'll do a million threadings or sleeves or whatever, just whatever. He'll lay a bunch of mouthpieces out on the table and say, I want this and this and this and this. And then he'll just play all day.
Wow. Okay, so it looks like a German Kiel, but it might be Kyle.
Kyle Lauer. Yep.
Yeah, you can't have too many HD pieces.
And yeah, I mean, he probably does, but we appreciate it very much. Yeah, Kyle's been a loyal HD for a long time.
Hang on, I just sidetracked there for a second. Talking about I know what I was going to ask you. What's the most ridiculous request you've had for a mouthpiece? Has it been a blank, like the size or shape of a blank, or I want a double cup or triple cup, or I want? Anybody ever come in with that?
I mean, I just saw Chuck Parrish yesterday, so he calls them the sausages, but they're basically these mouthpieces that are extremely heavy. I mean, you've seen bar stock brass. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's basically that with a stem,
right?
So I've always thought that was a little crazy, but he likes them, and so he continues to play them. I don't know. There's been so many of them over the years. Nothing really surprises me anymore, I did have some interesting requests when I was back at Schulke. Some guy wanted a mouthpiece to look like louvers in a I don't know. It was a weird looking thing. I get this drawing sent to me and says, I want this kind of mouthpiece, and then I want the exterior to look like this. I will say that's one of the only ones that I've sent back and say, no.
Yeah, Jason Harrelson would take on something like that, right?
Yeah. I would have been whittling the piece or something. I'm not that good.
Yeah. Okay. So, I remember as you started to expand away from trumpet mouthpieces, you've got are you covering the line? I know you got Melophone. Do you also have French horn?
I don't have a French horn line. I actually have a French horn mouthpiece here I'm supposed to copy. Mm-hmm. I still do custom French horns, but I don't have a French horn line. But I do, yes. The Melophone mouthpiece is, and I probably said it to you before, that's the biggest surprise of my career, is that Blue Coats wanted a Melophone mouthpiece. I'd never made one before. So I just kind of made something that I thought would work in a marching Melophone, and it's been one of the best things I've ever done.
Well, I mean, it wasn't
my top seller by a mile.
But I mean, it wasn't blind dumb luck. I mean, you knew what you were doing.
I mean, I had my ideas, but I never honestly thought, if I was going to look 15 years in the future, that the 6MP Melophone mouthpiece would be my top seller. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting a lot of, not just Melophone players, but a lot of trumpet players playing them too, popping them into the horn and utilizing them as a flugel style piece.
Yeah. You're one of the first mouthpiece makers I knew that started to compensate for depth by changing the length of the mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. And not just that, but when I asked for a flugelhorn mouthpiece, it was like, well, what do you play? What model, right? Because I never realized that receivers were different tapers or shapes or whatever. And so, it's like, again, I knew I was calling the right person, right? So I didn't just go in and buy something off the shelf and wonder why it didn't play in tune.
Yeah, not everybody has the same flugel receiver. So you've got your Bach receivers, you've got your Getzen style or the larger Yamaha, and you got your French tapers. And that's the one reason why I do not stock flugel mouthpieces, because I'd have to stock a whole bunch of different stems, and I have a hard enough time. So I just those are one-offs that I do for people.
So Anthony's latest comment, I made some request and got, well, that is a unique piece.
Which one was that? I wonder.
Yeah. Uh, I'm thinking back to that first trip I ever made up to the shop. Where it was a small shop. It's like you couldn't get more than 2 people in there.
Yeah, that was the closet.
Yeah, yeah. But there was something kind of cool, kind of special about that. And then, of course, I've been up to the shop again, and I think right as you guys started to renovate, but 21 ml. Anthony
21 ml. So it was a base diameter with a tenor cup.
Yeah.
And as I recall, it didn't work out too well either. So,
I'm thinking we can't visit you right now. Not the way we would want to. You're doing a lot of consultation by phone and email, right?
Yes.
How? I know it's not the same, but does it still work?
Yeah, I mean,
because I'm thinking
not
if somebody's going to play,
right? It's not as easy as being in the shop. I mean, if you're here, I get to listen to you play. We talk back and forth. I do something, I hand it right back to you. You play it. I make changes to it. The phone. Yes, I want to talk to you. I want to hear what the issues are. I want to hear the keywords that I'm looking for. I want to hear you play. I've actually had people play over the phone. It's just not quite the same. I think this would work. Some type like this, right. But the shop one-on-one is the best way to do it.
Well, hopefully we'll get back to that.
Yes.
Soon. Do you see any, like you're a fortune teller, do you see any kind of significant evolution in mouthpieces or just more custom work? Are you seeing any significant changes or adaptations or anything coming along?
That's a great question.
Oh, I get at least once in my lifetime. One good question.
Mouthpiece has been made for such a long time. A lot of the stuff we're doing now is stuff that's been done. It's the way they're being made, and there are a lot of people out there that are making some pretty high tech, incredible things. I think what's going to happen is when we come out of this, I think people are going to come out of the fog, and we're going to see some pretty cool stuff reemerge. And I think there's going to be a lot of companies that are ready to put the pedal to the floor.
Mm-hmm. You only make Hammond design, right? I know some companies out there will make a product and then stamp another name, another brand on there. Do you do anything like that, or is it all HD?
It's just all HD.
Yeah.
I don't have time to. I have a hard enough time with my own. I don't want to disappoint somebody else too.
Yeah, but I find that fascinating, and you see that even in food, right? Like we shop at Aldi's, but my wife says that same truck that is backing up and unloading food into Aldi's is over at Kroger or wherever. It's like it's just a different brand. It's the same product but a different brand. Right. Okay, Nick. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Osick. I remember asking for a smaller version of my already small lead piece, and I know Karl was probably like, what? Yeah. Oh, he's the one who says, don't mention the bent dimes I've made. So we're talking like really compact pieces, right?
And it's actually, some of his stuff wasn't as small as he thought it was. I've certainly made smaller. But yeah, he's a great player. He sounds good on those bent dimes.
Okay, so think about bent dimes and mistakes. Do you have mistakes? Oops.
That was the jar that you saw.
Oh, right.
That you showed early on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there weren't very many. What? That's 15 years worth of stuff. That's pretty good.
Well, those are probably lower in the recycle bin that she couldn't reach.
Yeah. Okay. So, that's something else I learned by coming to the shop is you've got this well, it was a 55-gallon barrel, I remember.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Right. That was just full of all these shavings. But that it does get recycled.
Oh, yeah. Usually I recycle that thing once a year. So it takes me about a year to fill that up.
Mm-hmm.
Or a little bit less. But I recycle it back, and I get a little bit back off of, off of the waste. And
you can't
then they
smelt
can go back and they like our stuff too, because it's pure brass. So.
What? Oh, right. Right. Mouthpiece is a single alloy. You don't have like a mix of nickel or like they would use in making the trumpet bell. You don't have a mix.
Well, brass is brass. So brass has a little bit of copper in it, a little bit of still has a little bit of lead. What I'm saying is all I have is just brass.
I gotcha.
I'm not mixing in silver or steel or anything like that.
Well, okay. So you mentioned the lead. Is that why California put their may cause cancer stamp on mouthpieces?
I presume so. Brass has a little bit of lead in it, which makes it machinable. And that's why we always say, make sure you get your mouthpieces plated. Joey Tartell, I'm still trying to get his original piece plated from 15 years ago, but it hasn't affected him much, I don't think so.
Oh, when are you going to start offering pink plating for him?
Well, yeah, it would be for him for sure. We'd have to maybe some sort of lacquer with tinting in it or something. We'll have to come up with something.
Yeah. What about acrylic tops? Have you gotten into that yet?
I have machined some clear acrylic. It's harder for me just because I don't have a lubricant going on it, and it burns real fast. It heats up super fast. That's why I use the white plastic for the Delrin rims and tops and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. I'd forgotten that. You already have some sort of alternative out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what else is going on? I mean, you're a firefighter. Well, not a firefighter. You're an EMT / firefighter.
I'm a firefighter.
You are a firefighter.
Yeah.
By the way, do you have to qualify or recertify on a regular basis with that?
Well, as far as the EMT, I have to do yearly CE, continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
So through Loyola Medicine here, we have to do that once a month.
Okay.
And then with the firefighting, yeah, I mean, every time we go off and do a fire, you kind of need to know how to do it. So
yeah, I don't know.
We always do the physical fitness and such. So yeah, well, there's always refreshers.
Cool. But not like that in mouthpiece making.
It's amazing how many things that show up that oh, you know what? I haven't done that in a long time. So
yeah.
It's never the same day twice. I'll tell you that.
Cool. And I'm thinking about Terry Warburton all of a sudden. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, his interview came out on the podcast platform this week. But now it's no secret. But I found out everybody's kind of found about. Let me try that again. Found out about this already. He makes fiberglass boats.
Yes.
Which he calls warboating.
Of course he does.
Which I think is hilarious. Yeah. By the way, let me do a quick plug for the podcast. Of course, this live series, and this has been a great thing this week to do. I enjoy doing the live thing because it's like a live concert, right? I mean, what happens. But number 87, Terry Warburton, came out this week. And next week, Kiku Collins. And then followed by, to round out January, I've got Jeff Kernow. It was a second interview with Jeff where we talked just about his time in Empire Brass. And I said Kernow, but he clarified it's Kernow. It is Jeff Kernow. So, if you want to be interested in finding out more about Studio HFL, go to the website, studiohfl.com. You can go and sign up for the newsletter. I also would like it if you would consider becoming a Patreon patron. There are some benefits there you can check out on the website. And of course, email me with any questions that you might have out there. Karl, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people that are listening out there. But show notes for all of this stuff can be found on the blog on the website, and merchandise on the website. Trying to do everything we can. Right. I see Karl's got merchandise. He's got his HD shirt on, and you've got T-shirts as well, right?
Yeah, T-shirts are getting low. We're kind of waiting to place a new order here, but we will be soon.
You have caps or anything?
We don't. We could.
Yeah, I'd buy one. But so, anyways, tomorrow night, Messina Covers, David Messina, Erica Howard, they're going to be wrapping up this industry pro showcase that I've been hosting this week. Karl, before we wrap up here, anything you want to share? Did we cover everything? Did I?
I've been handed a couple of questions. I guess they contacted us.
Okay.
I don't know if they're listening tonight.
That's okay.
They are if they asked.
Yeah.
But one's from Perry Reed.
Oh yeah, I know Perry.
Yeah. He says, how do you fit a mouthpiece for students grades 6 to 12? What playing test do you use or recommend? That's kind of a wide range. So you could kind of presume that the high school guys are going to have a little bit more capabilities, I guess you can say. But with the younger kids that come in here, and I'll say when I started the business, I was more towards the college guys, and it's really amazingly trickled down. And we are getting younger players in here. Obviously, they're not going to come in with anything fully memorized, or they might bring a book or two, but a lot of times it's just a simple, B flat concert scale, and then have them tongue them and play them legato and quiet and loud, and trying to get as much differences in musicality and what they're putting out. If you play the same thing over and over again with the younger guys, they're not going to be all nervous. They'll eventually relax and say, okay, I've got this, and they're just playing the same thing. And then you're focusing mostly on the sound and the results that mouthpiece is creating versus them fumbling over, notes and such like that. You try to help them out as much as you can. Some of the older high school kids will, I recommend that they bring in, etude books or any flexibility studies that they do. And because we'll put it on a music stand and we'll play those same things over with different pieces. So.
You gave quite possibly the best answer to that question, because you didn't say, oh, it should be a 5 ml. Right? I mean, you think about it. It's like, I know drum corps have kind of taken this trend to say, okay, we're going to put all the third trumpets on a 5C or 3C, and the seconds are going to be this, and that's a whole different conversation. But I like your answer. Right? You have to listen. You have to take every individual player for who they are, and then make choices.
And some of these younger kids that are coming in, this is kind of the first time they've ever stood in front of somebody they didn't know and played.
They're not nervous.
And so you want to make them as comfortable as possible. It doesn't have to be, a full etude. Play a scale.
Yep.
And you take from it what you can, but make them as comfortable as possible so you're not dealing with the nerves and you're not dealing with the fumbling. Just play. That's what it's all about anyway, right?
Exactly. So you got another question there?
I have one more here. This is a guy who's ordered a custom mouthpiece not long ago from me, named Brian Johnston. I think he's listening too. Mm-hmm. He's got 2 more on order. But he asked, what's the biggest sound difference with standard and skeletonized blanks? I'll grab them.
Yeah, I want to know the answer to this question.
So I'm trying to get my bearings here. There we are. So that's a skeletonized blank, and that's a standard blank. With the small bore mouthpieces, the small stem mouthpieces, we give that option. Some guys like to feel a little bit more resistance up close to their face for response and articulation feel. That's where the standard weight would come into play, because weight creates resistance. So the two same mouthpieces, like 212 mLs, within the standard and the skeleton blank, to me, I think they're going to play. They're still going to have their same similarities, but their end result is different. The standard weight's going to have a little bit more depth of sound to it, a little bit more focus, just because you're going through more weight. Where the skeletonized blank's going to be a little bit freer, a little bit more zingy in sound, a little bit more high end in the sound, and probably overall freer. And so it really comes down to playability, how you want it to respond. Is everything feeling appropriate? Am I going into the cup a little bit too far with the skeletonized? So if you pull it, you put in the standard blank, maybe you'll get enough resistance to stay on top of the rim. It's all personal preference, but there's definite differences between the two.
How did you come to that particular design?
So when I first put the line out, everything was in standard blank. So the heavier blank. And there was a string there for a while where someone said, feels kind of tight. And so I was putting it on the machine and taking a little bit of weight off. Oh yeah, that's it. I said, okay, makes sense just to create another blank, and okay, here's your other option. And believe it or not, we have people who want in between. We aren't doing a third blank.
But has that caught on any other mouthpiece maker? Has anybody tried to emulate that?
Well, back in the day, Schilke always had a skeletonized. They had a couple of models which were designed with a little bit of a skeletonized shape to it. I remember early on, I was making a lot of piccolo mouthpieces, skeletonized. So I was taking old Schilke blanks and taking the weight off to the point where there was just enough for the throat, but that was a trend there for a while.
I remember my first jet tone mouthpiece. Boy, you talk about skeletonized, right?
Oh yeah.
It was like a T. I mean, there's just barely a little curve where the cup went up to the rim. Yeah. But I think that was actually a Doc Severinsen model too. But I still have that. I don't know that I'll ever play it again, but I went through that phase.
We're trumpet players. We keep them all.
And speaking of Doc, I remember him telling me a story where he had thrown away garbage bags full of mouthpieces. Well, yes. Of course, he's still searching for the right mouthpiece and the right horn,
Right.
So, man, Karl, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to the next time we can actually hang in person.
Absolutely.
The last time I saw you, and I was grateful that you came down, you and Chuck, I think both came down to my trumpet conference, November of 2019.
Yep.
And, it was great to have you guys here. And I'm thinking, holy cow, that might have been one of the last conferences, before stuff.
Yeah, we did TMEA in beginning of February, and then that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So, well, it doesn't even have to be a conference, even if coffee or beer or whatever you're
love it
at the time.
Love it.
So, well, Karl, hang on just a second. I'm going to say thanks to everybody for showing up tonight and listening. Of course, this is going to be available on YouTube, and the audio is going to be available on the podcast platform that's going to come out tomorrow. So it'll live on in posterity. So a public thanks again to Karl Hammond for joining us tonight. And I kept saying Anissa. It's Anissa, right?
Anissa.
Thanks to Anissa for the excellent work on all the social media work.
I say I pretty much respond to any name. With her, it's Anissa.
It's Anissa. Well, I want to get it right. So yeah, Brian Hoover chimes in. Thank you. Yeah, I think people
hope to see you sometime, Brian.
Yeah. Well, Brian, you can share a beverage with us too if Karl comes down to Indy. So,
yep.
All right. Well, again, Karl, hang on. Everybody else, I'm going to sign off. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Don't forget, Messina
Thanks, everybody.
Tomorrow night.